12th, 2018, sorry. Invocation by Ms. Hernandez, please. Please rise.
So first I want to say a big congratulations tonight. We had a moment to celebrate our National Honor Society members. So congratulations to them. But I also wanted to offer my congratulations to a big shout out to all the kids who didn't win an award, who didn't make the honor roll and barely made it through the school year. A big hug to all the moms, dads, grandparents, caregivers, and foster parents who stuck by them as they maneuvered the school year. You are worthy of a pat on the back and a Facebook post. Don't forget these kids. Kindness, creativity, and tenacity often don't get the recognition they deserve, but we see you and we recognize you. So, let's pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. God bless America. Thank you, Ms. Hernandez. Fire evacuation. There's two ways out of the chambers, out the rear doors, out to the parking lot, or my left, your right, left down the stairs and out to the rear parking lot. Can we have roll call, please?
Mrs. Hernandez?
Here.
Mr. Neville?
Here.
Mr. Ryder?
Here.
Mr. Renier?
Here.
Mrs. DePoe?
Here.
Mr. Rutledge?
Here.
Mrs. Riley?
Here.
Mrs. LeBlanc?
Here.
Chairman Krusell?
Here. Thank you. Board guests, Mr. Drezek.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We do have special guests this evening. At this point, I'd like to call up Dr. Goodnight to introduce some special guests from our music program.
Is there a cordless mic? Is the cordless mic there somewhere?
I apologize, Mr. Rapucci as well.
Is this on? Okay.
Flick the switch there.
Yes, thank you. All right.
The music department is very proud of these two students that we have here tonight. Not only are they talented and dedicated and they practice a lot, they're also just great kids, and we were glad to have them represent Enfield High School at the All-State Festival. I'll let Mr. Rapucci tell you a little about it. He took them to the three-day event in April, and he went to the concert. It was the same day that I was at Boston Symphony Hall watching some of our other students perform. So he can tell you about Ben and Maria.
Yes, great. Ben and Maria, can you guys stand up for us, please? So Ben participated in All-State Concert Band and Maria in the treble chorus. If you remember, about 5 months ago, we were here with a slew of students that made regionals, Eastern regions. Once you make regions, you're eligible to audition for All-State. They had to go through another process, harder music, in front of judges again, and they both got accepted into All-State. This is a pretty rare event. Definitely, please give them a hand for incredible work. Awesome. So this is actually a three-day. They were there Thursday night, all rehearsals, all day Friday, and the concert on Saturday. And I had the pleasure of riding the bus with them to drop them off, and I can tell you, besides their incredible music ability, their courage, they were alone in their own ensembles and went right off. And just went after it. And I hats off to you. I just can't believe how incredible the concert was, how well you did. Very proud of you. Thank you. Do you guys want to say anything about your experience at all?
Yeah, I'll say something.
Name, address, and rank, and serial number.
All I can say was that it was well worth the work. Met a lot of great people, had a really great time. The instructors there were really helpful and very experienced. It was just a great experience, I guess.
Freshman, and he's a percussionist.
Freshman.
Sixth percussionist in the entire state. So he's a freshman. Freshman. Good for him.
And he also got the highest score.
I just want to agree with what Ben was saying. The director that I had the honor to work with was very kind, and he was very experienced, and all the students, we were all working towards a common goal, and it was just very inspiring to hear all of the ensembles perform and just see all the hard work that we all put in, and it was definitely worth the experience. So thank you.
Anyone want to comment? Or on behalf of the board, we congratulate you. Well done job. Thank you for representing Enfield, and keep it up. Keep it up. Mr. Drezik.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have additional special guests this evening. At this point, I'd like to call Mr. Corey O'Connell, our athletic director, for our spring 2017-18 athletic recognition.
Hello. This is being the third time up this season is always exciting. On our spring awards, before we announce the individuals, I just want to make everyone aware that this past season we've performed excellently in the fall, winter, and the spring season. But it's also a welcoming sight when we were awarded the CCC East Spring Sportsmanship Award. So it's always a nice honor to get both on the court and off the court, playing field, whatever. So that was a nice honor that we received last week. Before I announce the teams that come up here, the athletes have already received their recognitions at their team banquets, but we still would like to recognize them. Our tennis coach, boys tennis coach, was not able to come, but he did want to recognize Adam Coffey. He is a junior. Here, stand up there. He was the #1 singles player. He's the team captain, and coach said he looks for a bright future next year and building team around Adam next year.
Congratulations.
And now I'd like to call up Jay Goucher, our baseball coach.
Brett and Kyle, come on up. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having us here tonight. Thank you, board. Thank you, cabinet. You guys can stand, yep, right. Scott, there you go. Right over there is great. So they could all see you. Take a picture. First of all, I'd like to thank you guys. First of all, I'd like to talk about some of the volunteer work our baseball players did this year. We asked them to step up in the winter. We got a call from Food Shelf, and they asked if we could help them with their turkey drive. So we had about 25 baseball players step up to do the food drive, help them out with their turkey drive. And then our players also helped out at opening day for Little League evaluations. And then we got a call from Enfield Street School, and they do Fun Friday, and they asked if we could get some of our baseball players to go over there. So we had another 10, 15 guys to go up to there. We had some of the softball players come up too. So I'd like to thank our players for making the commitment to the community. This year, we finished with an overall record of 12-9. We started off 2-5. And then we sort of got caught fire. We finished 7-3 in the CCC East, which claimed the Patriot, so CCC East Patriot champs. Kyle Menaker right here was all conference. He's also playing tomorrow night at Plainville High School in the Junior All-Star Select game, which is a great showcase game. Zach Keeley, who couldn't be here tonight, was all conference, and Brett Reedy was also an all conference player for us. We lost in the first round in Double L to New Britain 4-3. Our players showed a lot of guts and resilience. We were down 3-1 going into the top of the 7th. Brett hit a triple to put it 3-2, and then Matt Falk hit a double to tie it up at 3 before, unfortunately, we lost 4-3. It was a great season. We graduated 3 seniors. We have 13 juniors coming back. So we have a bright future ahead of us, and thank you for having us.
Up next, I'll have Lance Miles, an assistant coach, talk about softball.
Hi, my name is Lance Miles. I was the JV softball coach. This year, both teams came together, all 3 teams, the varsity, JV, and freshmen. And our mission was to partner up with the EGSA, Town League, and help mentor the younger youth that are coming up to play. We ran evaluations, volunteered at their opening day, had honorary members attend our games, and even some of our girls even helped coach the younger players during the season. On the field, our freshman team ended with a 3-3 record. Not many games, a lot of them were rained out or canceled, and they were never rescheduled. The JV team finished undefeated with a 15-0 record, duplicating last year's record of 15-0. The varsity team finished with a 14-6 record, earning them a spot in the state tournament. And for the first time in many, many years, they hosted the first round game. Unfortunately, it didn't go the way we wanted. We lost a tough game to Staples, 6-3, but it was still a great achievement. 3 players earned your all-conference: Caitlin Martinic, Cameron Martinez, and Maggie Marquardt. Cam Martinez also earned a spot on the Junior All-Star Select, which is playing tonight as we speak. And that's where head coach Andrea Tarbox is at this moment with a good number of our players. That's why they're not here. They're supporting Cam. Overall, the season was very successful. The Enfield girls softball teams, all 3 of them were very successful. And we're looking forward to next year with only 1 senior on the team, 1 starting senior on the team. We're looking forward to another successful year in 2019.
Up next, we'll have Rob Barnes and girls tennis.
I thank the board for having us tonight for the spring sports, recognizing all our athletes. My captains, both my captains tonight are at the National Honor Society dinner, which was already mentioned tonight. Just a brief thing about the season. We had 23 girls participate, which I think might have been a record of some sort. I don't know. We also were able to come away with 6 match wins. We were 6-9 for the season. I know that in talking to some of the girls, is that we really never won that many matches before. And it's not the coaching. I'll tell you that. It's the kids. And we have some resilient kids and willing to put in the effort, and really proud of all the girls. One girl told me that she had never won a match before. And I came to her after the match, and she was so excited. And she's a senior, and she'd never won in 4 years. And I was like, why are you so excited? She's like, I've never won before. And I said, all right, well, we're going to go celebrate. So we went to Chick-fil-A on the way home and celebrated. So I'll thank the board again, and thank you for all your support.
Now we'll have Amy Bartholomew and track.
It's okay.
How about you guys?
Yeah. Yeah, you guys are good.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Last time I actually remember.
Who was the one that helped the kid at the cross country? Is he one of these?
All right, so first off, I want to start talking about how cool outdoor and indoor track and field is. Track and field is such a great sport just because really any skill level can take part in it. And the cool thing is you can really see the improvement and the growth throughout the season. So I just want to start off by congratulating all the kids on the team just on the growth that they had. They had many personal records throughout the season, personal bests. So to them, it's for all their hard work that they had those great accolades. The other thing, you know, our team is steadily growing. We have about 80 athletes on our team, and we actually held our first, it was actually called Walter Sullivan Spitfire meet for grades K to 5, and it was really awesome to see. We had about 75 kids that came and took part in it, so hopefully with that we'll kind of spread the love for track and have our team continue to grow. But I'd like to recognize some kids for some of the honors that they received during the season. For the girls team, we had 2 athletes that were named to the CCC All-Conference team, Sydney Nash and Stephanie Heck. We also had a lot of athletes that qualified for the Class LL state meet. And LL is definitely a hard class to qualify for. The standards are actually a little bit tougher than the other classes. So our first athlete, Sydney Nash, She qualified in the 1600 meters, the 800 meters, and the 4x800. She placed 6th in the Class LL state meet in the 1600 meters. Stephanie Heck qualified in the 100 meters, the 200 meters, and the 400 meters. Maddie Howell in the 100-meter hurdles. Katie Murillo in the 4x800 meters. Sarah Halleck in the 4x800 meters. And Morgan Roberto in the 4x800 meters. The boys team also had some great accomplishments. So for the CCC All-Conference team, we had Keyshawn Mason, Xavier Copening, Brendan DeBarber, Mason Dumas, Joelle Stewart, and Matt Santee. For state qualifiers, in the 4x100 meters, we had Keyshawn Mason, Xavier Copening, Brendan DeBarber, and Joelle Stewart. The 4x800 meters, we had Ethan O'Farrell, Max Anderson, Daniel White, and Antonios Padatzos. We also had Brendan DeBarber and Mason Dumas qualify in the javelin and the 300-meter hurdles. Mason Dumas then moved on to take part in the javelin in the state opens. Joelle Stewart qualified in the 100 meters, the 200 meters, and the 400 meters. Xavier Copening qualified in the 100 meters and the long jump. In that state meet, the double Xavier Copening won the 100 meters, so he is our Class double state champion in the 100 meters. He then moved on to compete at the state opens as well. Matt Santee was also all-state in the high jump. He moved on to compete as well in the state opens for high jump. He then qualified from there to compete at the New Englands. At that point, he placed top 6, and he actually 4th, right? Yep. And then from there, he qualified to go to nationals, which he'll be going to compete in on Friday. We had Trey Pierce, who qualified for nationals in the emerging elite division in the hammer throw. He also competed at the state meet as well, the Class double state meet for hammer. And then lastly, we did have some school records that were broken this season. In the 100 meters, Xavier Copening ran a 10.92. And the 2K steeplechase, Max Anderson holds the record with a time of 7 minutes and 31 seconds. In the high jump, Matt Santee now holds the record with a height of 6 feet 7 inches. And that is all I have for you guys. Thanks, guys.
Congrats, everyone. Congratulations.
Up next, we'll have Bill Walpole in golf.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having us here today. I'm here representing the golf team. Unfortunately, after a long, grueling season of some 3-hour practices, and now is finally the time to make those driver's ed commitments and other sports as well. So I'm here to give a couple shout outs to the team, and very proud to coach the team that was comprised, again, of boys and girls. It's typically a boys golf team traditionally, but we have boys and girls competing. This year as a team, we were 5 strokes better this year with a 41.72 average over par. We had 3 players under 9. Alec Burkholder led the way with a 7.98 average. Alex Ferris had an 8.03 average, and Spencer Corona had a 9. Taylor Giglone, who is a multi-sport star, she's headed to New Haven for field hockey. She was just narrowly missed making the state tournament for the girls. She was just about a stroke and a half over the average, but she was very close. And regardless, the whole team improved individually. I had several players starting the season shooting 9 holes around 65, 70 even. And by the end of the season, we had one girl, Catherine Longo, shot a 47. Maggie Johnson shot a 45. And that was actually one of my most proud moments. Yesterday when at the end of the year banquet, one of the fathers told me, with an honest look, he's like, she really got a lot better. It's nice to hear those stories about everybody improving. But as a team, we had a season low, 166 at Grassmere, and our biggest win of the season was against Durham, a 2-stroke win, narrow victory at Grassmere again. The entire team worked really well towards their personal goals, and collectively, we also led to a successful season for us. So thank you all again.
And last, Judy Jocelyn with volleyball, boys volleyball.
Thank you. And I'd also like to thank you for supporting us and allowing this time to recognize our athletes. After graduating 4 starters last year, plus a defensive specialist, we knew that we had our work cut out for us. But the players did step up, and we had a great season. We finished our regular season 11-8. We were ranked 4th in our conference and 11th for the state tournament. In the conference tournament, we beat Hall High School in the first round, 3-1, which was great because they had beaten us earlier in the year, so we came back and beat them. And then we moved on into play in the semifinals against Southington High School. After being down 2 games in that semifinal match, all right, we came back and we tied it at 2-2. And we played awesome in the 5th game, but just fell a little short, 15-10. All right, in the last set. We played hard in the state tournament, but our season ended in the first round against Darien High School, 3-1. I'm really proud of this team. They stepped up at every little obstacle that we had. We had a few injuries, but that didn't stop anybody. They played hard, showed great sportsmanship, great teamwork, and exciting games. 3 of our players were named to all conference. Our setter, Nick Watson, over there. Okay, our indestructible setter. All right. Our outside hitter, Nick Vermette. And Will Alfredo, he's our middle hitter who was not able to make it tonight. We also had 2 players who were named to the Senior All-Star, and they competed on Sunday. We were down at Maloney High School, and that was Wilfredo Ortiz and Nick Vermette. And we did have 1 player who was named to the All-State, and that was Wilfredo Ortiz. Thank you.
Once again, a round of applause for all of our student athletes. I'm extremely proud of what was accomplished by the athletic program this year, and I'm super excited. You hear the youth that are on some of these teams, and I cannot be more excited of what we're going to do on and off of the court. So congratulations to everybody. Thank you for support, and go Eagles.
I'd like to thank Athletic Director O'Connell for his fine work this year on all the teams, all the seasons, all the work you did, all the presentations. Thank you for stepping up and we'll wait for them to escape. Wish we could join you, but Number 7, Superintendent's Report. Mr. Drezek.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and you stole my thunder with Mr. O'Connell, so I wanted to say thank you to Corey. He did his first year as the athletic director. I'm glad to see he's still standing, but we couldn't be prouder to have him representing the Enfield Public Schools. Both our student representatives are unable to attend tonight. Actually got a note from Megan Connery, who's still over at Mount Carmel right now taking pictures with her family, so we won't have a student representative report this evening. I'd like to thank the members of the Mount Carmel Society for hosting the 2018 National Honor Society Recognition Dinner that was held earlier tonight. The long-standing tradition is greatly appreciated by the staff, students, and the families in Enfield. Buzz Robotics. UTC Aerospace has presented the Enfield Board of Education with a certificate and photograph of the 2018 Buzz Robotics Team 175 in recognition for their participation and contributions made as a member of the UTC Aerospace Systems with the Enfield Public Schools' first robotics competition team. We're extremely grateful for our partnership with UTC, and here I will pass along your certificate of appreciation and very large picture of our Buzz Robotics Squad. Enfield High School Scholarship Program and Awards Night. Board members are invited to attend the EHS Scholarship Program and Awards Night being held on Wednesday, June 13th at 6:30 p.m. in the auditorium. Invitation is enclosed in your packet with additional information. There will be a special Town Council Board of Ed joint meeting that will take place on Monday evening, June 18th at 6 p.m. in the Enfield room. Enclosed in your packet is a quorum agenda. The Enfield Pre-K STEAM Academy will hold an end-of-the-year ceremony for the pre-kindergarten students that will attend kindergarten. It's their stepping up ceremony for 2018-19. Board members are invited to attend the ceremony on Wednesday, June 20th at 6 p.m. There's a flyer in your packet as well. We're almost there. Graduation, Enfield High School's class of 2018. The graduation ceremony will be held on Thursday, June 21st at 7 p.m. outside. I won't put the last thing, weather permitting. We're going to say it's outside. Each board member has received graduation tickets for the event. There's information in your packets as well. Excuse me, the allergies are getting to me. There's one last part that's not listed on my report, but I thought it was important to share with you given some recent events. But I jotted some notes down that I'd like to take this opportunity to give you the most up-to-date information I have regarding the recent air quality concerns at Henry Barnard School. It's a bit lengthy, but I wanted to make sure that I gave the board as much detail as I had as possible. So if you bear with me for a moment, I'll share with you what it is that I know. So in February of 2018, as most of you know, we experienced several severe rain events, and this was prior to our March nor'easter surprise events that we had. During these heavy rain events, it was concluded that Henry Barnard School had several leaks in the roof, and water began to enter the building through the ceiling. Buildings and ground staff was immediately notified and worked tirelessly along with school staff to mitigate the issue. Several temporary roof repairs were made, and any issue inside the building was immediately rectified. As a result of these roof leaks, several noticeable discolorations were observed on ceiling tiles in the affected areas. Now, from my understanding, either staff or parents may have believed that these discolored ceiling tiles were evidence of mold growth on the ceilings. B&G immediately reacted by not only changing any ceiling tile that was discolored, but by also putting in place several dehumidifiers to counteract any moisture issues in the building. It was found that the origin of the discoloration of the ceiling tiles was not mold growth. However, it was in fact rust from the leaking roof water that was flowing against a rusted steel banister and ultimately leaking onto the ceiling tiles below. Even though these tiles were not dangerous, B&G still directed their custodial staff to immediately remove and change any ceiling tile that had the appearance of discoloration. At the same time, the North Central Health Department was called out of a concern regarding a mold problem at Henry Barnard. Now, I'm not sure who originally called the health department, but the North Central Health Director came to the building to conduct an assessment. At the same time, the town engaged in the services of a private environmental firm to assess whether or not there was a mold issue at Henry Barnard. The health director and the environmental firm reached the same conclusion. We do not have a mold problem in Henry Barnard. Outlined in the report from the environmental company, although no mold growth was found, a series of recommendations was offered to prevent the appearance of or the potential for mold growth. These recommendations were to cover any areas of wood that would have been exposed to moisture from the roof leaks and to remediate any areas that contain water stains in order to prevent the opportunity for sporation to occur. All these recommendations were authorized by town officials, and the environmental firm completed these recommendations. During this inspection, it was also determined that the dehumidifiers that were put in place to extract potential moisture in the building were in fact too powerful, It was recommended to limit the dehumidifiers from 2 units to 1. The final recommendation was the replacement of the sections of the roof that were causing the leaking and the subsequent damage. Town officials immediately reprioritized this roof replacement to the top of the list and appropriated funding to complete the project. The last step in the project was the Enfield Board of Education authorizing a grant application to the state of Connecticut for reimbursement for the project. This last step was finalized at the June 5th, 2018 special meeting, and the grant application was authorized earlier today and submitted to the state of Connecticut for consideration. Additionally, a repair schedule has been distributed, and any programming slated for Henry Barnard this summer has already been relocated to different buildings across the district. At the conclusion of both of these inspections, the North Central Health Director sent a correspondence to then-Town Manager Brian Chutkowski with her findings and recommendations. Once I received this letter on April 3rd, 2018, I sent a letter to all families and staff of Henry Barnard explaining the origin of the mold concerns, and included in my correspondence the letter from the local health director, the report from Bestec, the environmental firm, and educational information the State Department of Health provided regarding indoor air quality for all parents and staff to be informed. Shortly after this information was sent home to families, an OSHA inspector showed up at Henry Barnard School based on a complaint they received from a staff member. Although it's been reported who this staff member is, I do not believe that it is appropriate for me to discuss a personnel matter in public, especially if it involves a staff member's health concerns. So I will not be discussing any matter related to an employee with any member of the public, especially the media. I would recommend the board follow this example as well. Now, I've indicated this to members of the media, both print and television, and for the most part, these organizations have respected people's privacies and the district's responsibility to protect it. However, given recent media reports, it appears that one organization would prefer to present a tilted version of the truth to create chaos instead of what's in the best interest of students and families. I, however, will not engage in this exercise. Now, during the OSHA inspection, though I personally was not there, as it took place during April vacation and I was out of town, the inspector shared verbally with the members of the town staff that he did not believe there was a mold problem at Henry Barnard School. Because this gentleman is a very thorough inspector, he did indicate that he would need to complete his investigation throughout the entire school. Town and school staff present complied and assisted in any way possible to assist this inspector. During that inspection, he somehow managed to get his mirror and a flashlight behind a fixed bookshelf that is beside each unit ventilator in most classrooms. Now, most town officials weren't aware that these shelves could be even removed since they are bolted to the wall. But the inspector showed those present that behind this bookshelf there was a collection of dust and debris that had probably been sitting there since the building was originally constructed. Now that this collection of dust was found, the inspector indicated that he would need to cite the school for this violation. No one present during this inspection disagreed with this assessment. Contrary to what has been reported, as soon as the inspector left, B&G staff began abating these materials from behind the bookshelves immediately. Though we had not yet been cited, B&G staff took their verbal recommendations serious enough that they began altering the cleaning schedules of the building staff so they could remedy these concerns as soon as possible. One obstacle they encountered excuse me, was that removing these bookshelves is a timely ordeal. Not because the removal is dangerous for students, but because the actual process of removing these shelves takes several hours, and performing this work would be too disruptive for students in the classroom. Because of this, B&G staff created a schedule to perform the necessary work so that there would be no impact on students and staffs in these rooms. Late last week, I formally received the citation from OSHA citing Henry Barnard School for a, quote, other than serious violation with no financial penalty for violation for dust in the building. I respect the conclusion that this inspector found and have no point have challenged it. I am extremely confident that the deadline of July 31st, 2018 to complete the abatement of these issues will be met by our B&G staff. At the time of this citation, 60% of the work required to be completed in the citation was already complete, so I'm certain this work will be done well in advance of the stated deadline. Also included in this OSHA report were recommendations surrounding personal items that were present in the classroom in question. Clutter on top of the unit ventilators, though staff is reminded on an annual basis that this is not permitted, was included as a recommendation for removal, particularly if these items were brought from someone's home where exposure to certain contaminants is possible. Additionally, personal items such as plants were recommended to be removed, as the plant itself could create an environment for mold growth. The district does not purchase plants for classrooms, So staff has again been reminded that they are no longer able to bring items such as this into their classrooms, and their unit ventilators need to remain unobstructed so staff can clean and maintain them properly. Lastly, during this ordeal, we verified with the nurse at Henry Barnard if there was an increase in respiratory complaints from students during this time. I can confirm that the amount of nurse referrals this year is no higher than in previous years and is consistent with other schools for referrals of K-2 students during the winter months. The idea that there was an increase in student illness because of this concern is simply untrue, and the data we have supports this assertion. Yesterday, the OSHA inspector returned for a follow-up visit to Henry Barnard to ensure that the citation was posted and to get an update on the progress of abating the dust issue. The inspector was pleased with the process we have made, and no additional citations were issued. In fact, the inspector shared with members in attendance that his organization was beginning to highlight the same dust issues in similar vintage schools, and he had just yesterday cited a school in another town for a similar situation. The inspector is in the process of writing an article for the OSHA newsletter and to the State Department of Education outlining this issue because it is a statewide and in fact a New England-wide problem that originates in the original design of the building, not from negligence. He stated that he would not be surprised if this issue was prevalent in most schools of this age all over the state. So now that the OSHA report is complete, I want to address a few questions that have been raised to me. First, this whole process began with a complaint that Henry Barnard School had a mold problem. Neither OSHA, the state or local health department, or a private unaffiliated environmental company have ever confirmed that we have a mold issue at Henry Barnard School. To say anything contrary to that would simply be false. Additionally, through this entire process, which has expanded for months, have any of the organizations I mentioned above placed any occupancy restrictions on any area of Henry Barnard School? The notion that I, or any 9 of you members of the Board of Education, would allow students and staff to reside in a building that was not safe is not only irresponsible, it is reprehensible. At no time was I, or any town official, led to believe that Henry Barnard School was anything but safe for students and staff to be in, period. Lastly, I completely understand the need for NOSHA to document their findings. Yet since I have never dealt with this organization, my experience with them is minimal. One of the unfortunate repercussions of this process is the idea that Henry Barnard School is a dirty building, and the custodial staff does not maintain the cleanliness in an appropriate manner. This statement is simply untrue. I understand if members of the public would like to express their frustrations on this issue with me, but to insinuate that our custodians would allow this building to be inhabitable is categorically unfair. Our custodial staff takes enormous pride in providing a safe and clean building for our kids, most of whom have children or grandchildren of their own in our buildings. And to imply otherwise is simply unfair to these men and women who go above and beyond their job responsibilities to ensure we provide the best experience for our kids. I realize this department doesn't fall under the direction of the Board of Education or the Enfield Public Schools, but I thought it was important to communicate on the record the level of appreciation we have for all that they do and to continue to thank them for the work they will continue doing. With that said, you now have all the information I can talk about publicly regarding the Henry Barnard mold complaint and subsequent dust citation. If there is any further information I'm provided with that I can share, I will do so in a timely manner. But at this point, I believe all concerns on this issue have been addressed, and there's not a need for me to comment on this further. That concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. Any questions for the superintendent? All right, we move on to audiences. And I remind the audiences that we have 3 minutes and 3 minutes only, one time. And just read from our policy. During this period, any resident or taxpayer of Enfield, employee of the board, citizen, or any interest in the school system may address the board on issues concerning the school. When addressing the board, the member of the audience shall state their name and address, refrain from making any personal attacks on individuals. Since the board meetings are held in conduct of board business in public and are not meetings with the public, the chair, acting on behalf of the board, has the right to limit the overall length of time, which is 3 minutes, devoted to the audience participation and/or length of time individuals may spend with addressing the board. So with that said, I will start with Lisa Carey. The name and address from both of you, please.
Lisa Carey, 22 Rocket Run.
Joanne Renner, 12 Rayfield Drive.
The OSHA citation in May 29th report to Superintendent Chris Drezek states gross accumulation of dirt, dust, cobwebs, and debris in the ventilation units of several classrooms and heavy accumulations of dust throughout the building, indicating a prolonged period of ineffective housekeeping to the extent that these conditions have become unhealthful to building occupants, children, teachers, and staff. The report detail states that, quote, the heavy accumulation of dust found within the school appears to be having a negative impact on air quality and employee health and well-being. The level of fungal contamination, specifically Cladosporium mold contamination in indoor air quality, was found to be approximately 3 times that of outside air, which should not be exceeded. Furthermore, this level was more than 45 times higher in classroom 7 than in adjoining classroom 5. The humidity in classrooms 7, 5, 3, and 15 were also well below minimum levels, adding to the impact of irritants. Heating ducts were found occluded with dust, dirt, cobwebs, debris throughout room 7 and the school at large. Cladosporium species of mold cause allergic rhinitis, asthma, upper respiratory, and eye irritation. Acute, chronic asthmatic, and allergic reactions exacerbates these conditions due to continuous exposure and the confirmed findings of Mrs. Carroll's doctors.
Thank you. Next, Richard Waska.
Richard Waska, 37 Newlands Road. I'm speaking on behalf of Catherine Carroll, kindergarten teacher at Henry Barnard Elementary School, classroom 7. She spent 23 of 26 years in the Enfield Public School system. Mrs. Carroll began to suffer with these conditions from the first day she reported to Barnard, July 10, 2017. The principal, Jim Graham, and his secretary, Rhonda Rolanitis, were advised immediately. Mrs. Carroll and a colleague were impacted again within the hour of arrival on August 4th. She requested that action to improve air quality in classroom 7 be taken immediately. She has sent 5 to 6 children to the nurse per day per week, week over week since September. Documentation as a result of extensive medical interactions with pulmonary, allergic, neuro-ophthalmology, ophthalmology, general medicine, and UConn occupational and environmental medicine have provided causation, citing airborne allergens as the cause of a slew of upper respiratory ailments. Chris Drezek's comments with regards a safe environment related solely to a visual mold inspection by Best Tech in March. Air quality testing was not requested nor performed at that time. Ventilation ducts were not assessed. As an otherwise very healthy 47-year-old teacher, this has been devastating. Mrs. Carroll now has to carry an EpiPen and keep one in the nurse's office. Assertions that mold might exist stem from the fact that the school's roof has been leaking for years, which we all know is a prime environment for mold generation. Latest evaluations report 2 sections of the roof have completely failed, with approximately half of the insulation totally saturated. While residing in a classroom, there were no plants, no boxes piled high. Placement of classroom items were all fine with janitorial personnel. Custodial staff, buildings, and grounds have reported spending more than $35,000 on roofing and tiles that are continuously soaked and also noted by OSHA. Mrs. Carroll has not been in a classroom for more than 2 months. She has not filed a grievance nor taken a negative action. She has adhered to all policies and procedural requirements. All health issues cited are for airborne contaminants as well as mold. Mrs. Carroll would like to be working as she has recovered from traumatic health impacts considerably. Superintendent Drezek says that the school is safe and at the same time will not permit her return because remediation has not been completed. She has exhausted 65 and a half days of approved medical leave. That's over 4 years' worth of accumulated time, speaking to her otherwise healthy record. The superintendent, however, did not approve of an extension of her sick time allowances. This makes no sense.
You have 30 seconds.
Her $4,500 paycheck on Friday was $160. With no email explanation or discussion, the difference paid the sub for the duration of the school year. She requested extended pay consideration before the fact to Mr. Drezik, but did not receive any response before the check was issued. Teachers and other staff in Barnard will not enter room 7 due to the toxic environment. These individuals will not speak to administration, the Town Council, Board of Ed due to fear of retaliation. As documented, numerous personnel conversations, messages, and phone calls. She's not the cause of the circumstance. She and the children, students and staff are victims. May I have one more sentence, please, sir?
No, sir. 3 minutes is up.
May I have a minute of a successive
Audience cannot
speaker?
talk about this. Policy is 3 minutes. 3 minutes is up, sir. Sorry.
I understand that it is, Mr. Chairman. I have one sentence. Would you please consider one sentence?
No, sir. 3 minutes is up. I don't go by the time. Please, no comments from the audience. Please, no comments from the audience. Do I say that clear enough?
It's on the record. You're all set.
Please, sir, your 3 minutes are up, sir.
Mr. Chairman, may I just thank you for being considerate.
Thank you.
I am not here.
No.
In an aggravated fashion. I am not here because of a grievance. I am not here because of a complaint.
I'm not raising my voice to you, sir. I'm raising the voice.
And I
to the
appreciate that,
ones
Mr.
behind
Chairman.
you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
May I speak with you after the meeting, sir?
Sure.
That would be very much appreciated. Thank you so much. You're very kind. I appreciate all of your calm responses.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One more outburst, and I'll just close public communication altogether. Gina Sullivan.
Gina Sullivan, 11 Spear Avenue. Let's talk about OSHA definitions. The most serious violation category is willful violations, and it is reserved for intentional violations of OSHA rules or situations that show disregard for employee health and safety. The minimum penalty for each willful violation is $5,000 and the maximum fine is $70,000. Henry Barnard was categorized as other than serious violations. A violation of OSHA rules that would not usually cause death or serious injury, but that is nevertheless related to job safety or employee health, is considered an other than serious violation. The maximum penalty for each such violation is $7,000. However, inspectors can choose not to levy a fine or to reduce the penalty by as much as 95%. Inspectors make decisions about penalties based on factors such as the size of the business and the cooperativeness of its owner. Failure to provide copies of safety regulations and failure to post required documentation to work areas are considered other than serious OSHA violations. In conclusion, a non-serious violation can be a serious violation that was not willfully made. No intent. Thank you. Sorry to take up your time.
Sue Braun.
Sue Braun, 17 Light Street. I actually have only entered Henry Barnard once, so I can't really talk to that school. I was fascinated that the BOE chair and one of his cohorts made light of illness complaints at Henry Barnard School. I was fascinated because my son experienced horrible repercussions from going to Enfield Public Schools. I didn't realize that at the time. I should have been smarter. I should have realized that on Saturday he was better. I should have realized after I got all the notes from Enfield Public Schools saying that my son had been out too frequently and we would send people to your house because you weren't sending him to school. And I should have realized that because I didn't have to take him to the doctor anymore because he had asthma and I could treat him at home and I didn't have to go to the doctor every single time in order to get a note, that possibly I should have. When we left Hazardville Memorial, we moved to Eli Whitney. I had friends at Eli Whitney. I had discussions with people at Eli Whitney, and he was always put in a room at Eli Whitney that had some sort of air filtration. He did better, but it didn't stop. I blamed it on the green cleaners. I blamed it on this. I blamed it on that. And then I remember one day walking through a hallway and dodging the garbage cans that were clearly set up to catch the water coming in from the roof, and thinking to myself, oh my God, I had him allergy tested, and it only came back as mold. Now, let me just say, the only thing that's pertinent to this discussion is a child. He is not in EPS anymore. He will never return to EPS. He has dreams, and I'm hoping that his kindergarten through 5th grade career at EPS hasn't ruined those. Putting aside the fact that they forgot to teach him at Hazardville, he gained all of his points back and now reads above grade level. Severe dyslexia. Unfortunately, though, he doesn't hear as well as he should. He has asthma. But he's still going for Boy Scouts, for Eagle Scout, because he wants to go to West Point. He's still talking to politicians because he wants to go to West Point. Do you understand what asthma does to people? Do you understand that it could kill you? I took him out of the school system. I put him in a different school system, and he's been sick one day this year.
Your time is
one day. These are crickets. These are crickets.
Your time is up.
Got it?
Your time is up. Anyone else want to speak in front of the board? Liz Davis.
Elizabeth Davis, I reside at 201 North Maple Street. So I'll finish the statement. Please help Mrs. Carroll as permitted by Article 2, Section 3, Section C, page 3, your board prerogatives, which cannot be delegated in whole or in part per current teacher's contract. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mrs. Grant, or Miss Grant, I'm sorry. It's Shannon, right?
Good evening. Shannon Grant, 49 Yale Drive. I just wanted to come up and talk a little bit about your responsibilities as a Board of Education member versus responsibilities of the town of Enfield members, which you are not. It's been said a couple of times, both at regular Board of Ed meetings and at policy committee meetings, that the Board of Education is responsible for the management of the schools. 100% responsible for the management of the buildings and of the grounds. I know that at this point, the town of Enfield maintains responsibility for that, but that is incorrect. By statute, you are responsible for 100% of what goes on in the building, how the building is in terms of condition, healthfulness, maintenance, and everything related to it. You are responsible, and I also want to say that you're personally responsible. As members of the Board of Education, you are the only representatives that can be held personally responsible if the budget of the Board of Education is exceeded and the town council does not increase your budget. You are personally responsible. That comes out of your bank account. You have a responsibility for buildings which you do not have control over. I want you to think about that. And I want you to think about what's going on here. So please give some thought to that. I think it's important. School buildings are different from town buildings. They require a different look. They require a different amount of priority. And they have different regulations, which you should all be aware of, which I'm sure you are. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I close public communication. Number 9, board member comments. Ms. Hernandez, would you like to start?
Thank you, Chairman. A couple of comments before I get to the ones that I have tonight. I had the honor and privilege of attending the breakfast at night that was put on to support our local veterans. This is another one of the student-led initiatives, and it was wonderful. I had an opportunity to talk to the students, and they really talked about, again, how powerful it was for them to be able to have these leadership opportunities and how they see their future a lot differently now. So excellent job. I also had the opportunity to attend the spring concert at Enfield High, and oh my word, it was amazing. Nothing less than professional quality. There were many times where my family and I just kind of looked at each other and almost could have fallen out of our seats. It was amazing. And then I also attended the Head Start policy meeting, which was, every time that I meet with Head Start, I am continuously, I'm humbled at their commitment to the people that they serve, and they're always looking to see how can they serve them better. So kudos to Head Start, and job well done. Obviously, congratulations to all the students who were here tonight. They were phenomenal. For those who came to speak tonight, I thank you for using your voice. We are here to listen, and I do appreciate you. I do want to put out that I have connected with Tom Arnone to find out the plan that we have currently in place to keep our schools clean. After connecting with CABE, who is our governing, they help us as board members. This is an opportunity to look at this plan to make sure that it is up to date, and if there's any holes, we should fill them and make sure they're being addressed. So I look forward to that response. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hernandez. Mr. Neville.
Just a couple of things. I had the opportunity to attend the Parent Leadership Academy graduation of the night, and it was outstanding. It's the 13th year that they've had this, and they have one of the graduates sitting next to me to my left, but the quality of the graduates, the skills that they learned during here, and they talked about not being great public speakers. Well, they certainly did a great job the other night articulating what they had learned and the type of projects they had done. So kudos to them, and to Lisa Rogers for keeping this together and keeping it running. It's just a superb job. Second thing was that we had the opportunity, a number of us, to go to the PTO President's meeting last night. It was the first time that I think any of us had been, and Mr. Ryder took his board hat off and was a parent at this meeting, but it was a great meeting, and I think all of us know and articulated to these folks, we could not do this without them. And they do just a wonderful job, and they articulated the things that they're doing, but also the things that they're planning to do. So kudos to all of them, and we're grateful to have them. And thank you, Mr. Ryder.
Super Mr. Ryder. He knows what I'm doing.
Just an update from Eli Whitney. June 20th is our end-of-year assembly. That's in the morning. There's also a grade 5 celebration picnic later that afternoon for the Eli Whitney families of the 5th graders. From my Hazardville hat, I just wanted to thank everybody who came out to the HMS Fun Run on Saturday. Again, we had over 90 participants. We've already opened registration for next year, which will be June 8th, 2009. And I wanted to ask that our coach about the Spitfire meet, and I just wanted to reach out and to say that when we pick a date for next year, to let me know the date so I can get all the PTOs at the K through 5 level some information about that. I thought that was a great thing. It actually occurred when I was away for business last week, or I would have been there with my kids, because I think that was a great thing. I read about it and I saw it coming, but I was out of town. And other than that, I just wanted to wish everybody a happy and safe, activity-filled summer, and thank you for everything.
Mr. Rainier.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank everyone for coming out this evening and stating your thoughts. I'd like to thank the custodial staff that's been working hard. Mr. Drezik, all the people who've been dedicated to this, the family, the teachers, the parents. It's been a tough hill, but from the report that you read this evening, it sounds like there's some remedy going into it, which is great. Also, thanks to all the town members who are part of the joint facility and pushing through the roof to get fixed for next year. I know going through subcommittees isn't always the easiest, so to the four of, or this year, so this summer. So to the four of you who sit on that committee, thank you. To those who sit out from town council, one in attendance this evening, thank you guys for the work that you've been doing to get that roof pushed forward. Wanted to congratulate, obviously, everyone who was here this evening for their accolades in not only sports but also in the school at the National Honor Society this evening. A lot of them not here because they were there, which is no surprise that they like to push themselves hard. So that's great. I'd like to congratulate everyone beforehand. So everyone who's graduating this year, congratulations. Just like to say, you know, whatever comes next, best of luck to you, and we'll be seeing you next week. And then also the students that are stepping up to the next grade level. I'd like to congratulate them on stepping up and going out there and putting their, you know, best foot forward. And to the teachers and the staff that are retiring, thank you for your hard work and dedication this year. It's been a pleasure to have you as part of the Enfield family, and it will be a sad loss for any of you that are leaving, but best of luck. And finally, I just wanted to end with the Rachel's Challenge Kindness Carnival. It was an excellent event. We went out there with my family, and the kids loved it. They loved participating in all the games, getting the tokens, and just kind of not just having fun, but knowing what the event was about was really important to the kids. So I just wanted to thank everyone that was involved with Rachel's Challenge, Enfield High School. It was a great event, and look forward to next year's. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Renier. Mr. Poe?
Well, you took my comment to the Enfield High graduates. I wanted to congratulate them as well for a job well done over these last 4 years. Also to congratulate everyone who is here tonight. And as far as the folks who have spoken tonight, to those of you who needed to be heard, I hear you. To those of you who want to be heard, passive aggressiveness really diminishes a message.
Thank you, Mr. Poe. Mr. Rutledge.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we're at the end of another school year. You know, just reflecting back, a few of us, Sarah, Walter, Charlotte, and myself, were recently at the adult ed graduation. I think they put on a wonderful ceremony. And if any of those folks are, you know, watching, I'd like to give them all the kudos and congratulations in the world. Even though their diplomas didn't come on a traditional route, it should take nothing away from their accomplishment. They all worked very hard to, you know, earn those diplomas, and I hope they all achieve their goals, and I wish them all the best. Also reflecting back on this past school year, you know, there's some people who I think maybe don't always get all the recognition they deserve, and that's all the volunteers who volunteer at our schools. People at PTOs, school activities, field trips, what have you. A lot of what we do couldn't happen without you folks, so I just wanted to extend a thank you to all the people that help make our schools as good as they are. And to our upcoming graduates, the class of 2018. As some other people have said, congratulations to you in advance. You're closing one chapter of your lives and beginning a new one. And you know, I'm reminded of something. I recently had a meeting with some folks down at the Career Center at Enfield High, and you know, I was asking them, you know, what they do to encourage, you know, career choices or things like that, and they said they always encourage kids to shoot for the stars. But one piece of advice they gave that I think is absolutely amazing, and this is the same advice I would give to any graduate this year: always have a backup plan. Life doesn't always go as we think it will. Sometimes there's forks in the road, and you have to be able to, you know, roll with those proverbial punches. So my message to you is to always strive for your dreams, go for what you want to go for, what you're passionate in, but at the same time, you know, have a backup plan and always try and prepare for that unexpected life occurrence. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rutledge. Ms. Riley.
I wanted to first say congratulations to all of the two outstanding music students and the athletes that were here tonight. That's no small feat, and we thank your parents also for taking you to all of your practices and games. We appreciate that very much, so congratulations. I want to say that the adult education graduation was wonderful. Those students work their tails off. They have other situations that make a traditional path not easy for them. So thank you for all your hard work and dedication, and congratulations to you. I wish you all the best in your future endeavors. Also, congratulations to the graduates next week, the pre-K students, and all the seniors. I can't wait to go to both of those. The first reader ceremony went incredible last Monday. There was 166 students attended out of the 250-ish that we certified. The entire auditorium was completely full, so it was great to see, standing room only. The honors breakfast at Enfield High School was a great turnout. I only got to go to the end of the alphabet, but I'm proud of every single one of them. It's no small feat to be an honors student these days. It was great to go with Tim and Donna to the State Board of Education to talk about JFK, present it to the state. That was a wonderful day. And I wanted to thank all those of you who came out to speak tonight. I want to thank Mr. Drezek for your statements regarding the issues at hand, and everybody involved with the remediation of the situation as quickly as possible as things keep coming up. So I want to thank everybody for that, and I want to wish everybody a good summer vacation.
Thank you, Ms. Riley. Ms. LeBlanc.
So I've been busy. I went to the 8th grade JFK band concert last week. It was my last JFK band concert. So it's like a lot of lasts, but some firsts coming up. Having my last one be a freshman. They really incorporated the kids. I had never been to the 8th grade one. They really incorporated the kids, and the kids gave Mr. Wenham and Mr. Power some of their accolades too, because they feel like they couldn't have done it without them, and it was really special. And I watched a quarter of that band in 5th grade. And to see, you know, it was quite large in 6th grade, and you can see it whittling down. And they do a fabulous job. And the jazz ensemble always amazes me. And one thing about Mr. Power is that if you have a willingness to learn, he will find something for you. And he will work with you. And really good job to the music department. Kudos to Mrs. Goodnight, Mr. Rapucci, the students that were here. We have some really talented students, especially with our arts and music, that they just amaze me. They just amaze me because I am not musically or artistically inclined, so they really amaze me. I also attended the Ridleys dance recital, but what was poignant about that is that we had Alex's Army here. At one of the board meetings, and Kelly Fisher, and Kelly's family was very involved with Riley's, and they did a dance called Dare, the old Dare slogan, and I believe they're going to do an Alex's Army booth at the 4th of July, and I think the girls are going to do the Dare dance. You can find it on social media. They have posted it. It speaks volumes, and the audience was silent, and the girls that actually danced in it felt so honored and so connected, and it was just a really touching thing to watch, and to incorporate the high school students in something like that, and it was wonderful. Going back to JFK, the 8th grade breakfast is June 22nd, along with the semifinal. The 8th graders went to High Meadow yesterday as well for their 8th grade field trip. I always take a minute at the end of the year to thank the teachers and the administrators that have had my kids. It's easy with some of them, but it takes a village. And Enfield Public Schools has been my village for a very long time, and we still have quite some time in there. One of my favorite days is coming up is graduation. It's a very prideful experience. I like to be this little teeny tiny piece to see these kids on, you know, such an exciting day for them. And I just love being able to be a part of it. I'd like to thank the audience who came out to speak tonight. I understand that you need to be heard. I heard you. I'm always listening. You can always reach me via cell phone, email. I'm available. I'd like to thank Chris for clarifying anything you felt that need to be clarifying based on board member questions. So I know I can't speak for everybody, but speaking for me, I appreciate you taking the time to do that. And lastly, I just want to wish everybody a safe and happy summer. And safe. That's the most important thing, safe. And we'll see you guys back in September. Thank you.
Teachers that had her students can send the invoice to that email that was on.
Just one, and they're almost done. They just got to do one final push.
Well, I have an event that none of you went to, and it was the Memorial Day Parade.
Oh.
It was rained out the second time. The second time it was only rained out, so we did it in the Enfield Auditorium. We had all the bands play. We had some outside bands played, but we also had the Cycling Murrays came in, rode their bikes into the auditorium, a couple of them on unicycles where they had to duck to get in the door. So we were all afraid they were going to come flying off the thing, but it was a great, different approach to the parade, and it was different, not going down Enfield Street and seeing people, but there was a lot of people came too, so thank you for that. And thank you, Mr. Drezek, for your comments on this issue with the school, with the media and everything else. I think we've addressed this issue to no end, and I'd like to say thank you all for the great school year. The 9 of you have been present pretty much at every meeting, and it's very much appreciated because it's more of you talk, the less I have to talk. So, and congratulations to the seniors. We will see you next Thursday outdoors for graduation. So with that, we will proceed to unfinished business. Mr. Drezek, discussion, action, if any, regarding the fiscal year 2018-2019 budget. Mr. Drezek.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you know, earlier this month, late last month, I apologize, I'm confusing my days. The Town Council has appropriated a budget for the Board of Education spending plan for fiscal year 2018-2019. I want to take the opportunity to thank the members of the Council who not only fulfilled the board's request of a 1.8% budget increase for next year, but there's actually additional funding that was appropriated to the Board of Education for next fiscal year as well. Because we presented a budget plan that was pretty stringent on staying within the parameters of 1.85%, I don't have any additional recommendations to get to that point, but you do need to adopt a budget so we can begin rolling that process over. Fortunately, we went through a budget cycle this year where we didn't have to issue any non-renewals for teaching staff, so the anxiety of our staff members thinking whether or not they would have a job, we're proud to say that we're able to call back everyone who's interested in returning. That said, you have to adopt a budget so we can formally start moving the process forward. I know we have a meeting next week with the council to have further discussions about this. So at this time, if you wanted to adopt the Board of Education's budget and take the formal action, adopting the 1.85% increase, and then my recommendation at this point is that we would add an additional line to the budget, and that would be entitled MBR holdover at this point because we haven't appropriated those funds yet, and it's something the board can always adjust going forward. So that's what I have for you. It's up to you to take action on adopting the budget.
So do I have a motion to adopt the fiscal year 2018-2019 budget as approved by the Town Council with a 1.85 increase plus an extra MBR? So moved by Mr. Rutledge, seconded by Mr. Neville. Any discussion? Again, I'd like to thank the Town Council for their due diligence and hard work. Also to our staff for their hard work on this budget. I know it was a tough year, and I think we prevailed, and with discussion, with our communication with the council is just getting stronger and stronger. So, Kathy, roll call, please.
Mrs. Hernandez.
Yes.
Mr. Neville.
Yes.
Mr. Ryder.
Yes.
Mr. Renier.
Yes.
Mrs. DePoe?
Yes.
Mr. Rutledge?
Yes.
Mrs. Riley?
Yes.
Mrs. LeBlanc?
Yes.
Chairman Krizell?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you all. New business. 11A, approval of 2018-2019 healthy foods certification. Mr. Drezek.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our Nutrition Services Director, and I know she's not here because we told her she didn't have to, Diane Edwards has provided the board with the enclosed memo regarding the healthy food certification statement for the 2018-19 school year. The state of Connecticut requires that all districts to complete the certification statement certifying that all food items sold to students will meet or will not meet the Connecticut nutritional standards. The Enfield Public Schools lunch program meets all federal and state nutrition guidelines, and Ms. Edwards recommends that we do not certify the 2018-19 Connecticut Healthy Food Certification due to the additional restrictions that are required. The costs needed to comply with the certification will exceed the reimbursement initiative. Therefore, the board can take action deemed appropriate and indicate that the board elects to not certify the 2018-19 Healthy Food Certification Statement. And just as a point of information, this is what you've done, I believe, the last 7 or 8 years that I can recall, probably longer than that, and I know Kathy will know off the top of her head. So,
Long time.
So do I make the motion to not certify or make the motion to certify and we all vote no?
Make the to not certify.
Okay, so I make a motion, or I need a motion to not certify the 2018-2019 Healthy Food Certification.
Motion.
Motion by Ms. LeBlanc, seconded by Mr. Neville. Any discussion? So a yes vote will not certify the, Mr. Neville.
Just as a clarification, for us to certify this, it's not only there's changes in the recommendation, but aren't there additional costs that are incurred by the district?
there are. Right now, she operates under the federal and state nutrition guidelines, which also run underneath the reimbursable food allowance under USDA. If you were to certify positively, she would have to make adjustments to the existing operations that there would be an additional cost.
We go through this every year.
I know, we go through this every year.
The only difference this year is you don't actually have to sign anything. The only thing we have to present is the minutes of the vote.
Fine. Thank you.
Hence why Ms. Edwards wasn't required to be here this evening.
Awesome. Sorry, there's your word. Ms. Riley.
So this is also, as I remember last year, you won't be able to sell any like concessions at games and stuff.
If we passed it, yes.
Right. Okay.
That's why we don't pass it, to get the food concessions and all that would have to fall under this umbrella.
Right.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Hernandez?
Yes.
Mr. Neville?
Yes.
Mr. Ryder?
Yes.
Mr. Renier?
Yes.
Mrs. DePoe?
Yes.
Mr. Rutledge?
Yes.
Mrs. Riley?
Yes.
Mrs. LeBlanc?
Yes.
Chairman Krizel?
Yes.
Motion to not certify passes.
11B, a motion to cancel June 26, 2018 regular board meeting.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Riley, seconded by Mr. Poe. We've been in discussion with the, any discussion? Not yet.
Yes, I actually just had a question. Like Rich, I know we have a policy meeting coming up on the 19th. Would there be anything potentially at the June 26th meeting that we would have to vote on? Or is there going to be a rescheduling of the finance meeting before that, where we might have to do line item transfers?
There will be a rescheduling of the finance meeting, but we'll do the line item transfers in July.
Oh, okay.
Because then we'll have all the books done at that
All
point.
right, very good. I was just wondering.
Have we been in discussion with the superintendent that there's just, because it's the last day of school, there's just no need to have it? But if we do need a special meeting, we'll be available.
But to confirm, our next meeting would be July 10.
July 10th would be our next regular board meeting, yes. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Hernandez?
Yes.
Mr. Neville?
Yes.
Mr. Ryder?
Yes.
Mr. Renier?
Yes.
Mrs. DePoe?
Yes.
Mr. Rutledge?
Yes.
Mrs. Riley?
Yes.
Mrs. LeBlanc?
Yes.
Chairman Krizel?
Yes.
Motion passes.
11C, we're going to postpone until after executive session. So we'll move to 12A, Curriculum Committee report.
We had to cancel the curriculum meeting, and we've rescheduled it for this Thursday, what's the date, the 14th. And we're going to, I talked to Kathy, we're going to change the location to the JFK Library so that people can attend two different meetings that go on at 6 o'clock. And then we're also, there's only a one item agenda, which is the TAG agenda. I know some of the folks from the Finance Committee, we talked about the Simkovitz thing, had questions about it, so I invite you folks to come if you'd like. And we'll report back at the July 10th meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. 12B, Finance.
Yesterday's meeting was canceled due to 2 members being unable to attend. So we don't have anything under number 14 either when that comes up. But we're working on rescheduling it after the end of June.
Okay. 12C, Mr. Rainier.
Policies, next meeting is on Tuesday, 6:30 at Elkhorn.
12D, Leadership, not much to discuss. 12E, Joint Facilities, we keep meeting every Thursday, and
I think that we've come to some closure on several things. The one that's already been mentioned here in terms of the barned roof, I think we've gone as far as we can with that. If all goes well, we'll have some go out to bid, and we'll have some work done, I think, on about a third of the building. The most serious part of it would get fixed this summer. And so that's a good thing. We've also approved the concept, and we presented the concept of the JFK referendum. We presented that to the town council. We also presented it to the board. Charlotte mentioned that 3 or 4 of us went down with the architects down to the State Department. I think they were, from their comments, impressed with the changes that had happened since the previous year in terms of the way we've come up with the concept. And we're moving on, and we have to, I think, come back in the summertime to talk about a referendum question and to get approval from the town council and the board about that. So,
just a correction from before, it was a meeting with the State Building Construction.
Correct.
Not State Board of Ed.
Okay.
Building Construction.
Those are the ones that approved the money, and I think we were pleasantly not surprised but pleased to hear that we're going to get 70.7% reimbursement, and I think we were a bit surprised.
And with the auditorium also.
Yeah. So it's that was all good news from those folks, plus their positive comments.
Item F, Enfield High School Building Committee, we met, I can't remember when, it was a couple Thursdays ago, and just approving bills and trying to close out the project, and I think our next meeting's on July 19th. And no other committees?
Mr. Chairman, as a point of order, I'd like to make a motion that we move 11C to after 16A.
I don't know, do we need to make that motion, or we just, it's already on the agenda? Because it's already noted on the agenda that way.
Okay. Well, it's changing the order of the written agenda.
But it's already noted here, 11C may be addressed after 16. The little box on the right-hand side.
Okay.
I don't think we need to make a motion. Okay, but thank you for asking. So, number 13, approval of minutes, special meeting minutes, May 22nd.
So moved.
2018, moved by Mr. Rutledge.
Seconded.
Seconded by Mr. Ryder. Any discussion? Show of hands. All in favor? 900. Regular meeting minutes of May 22nd, 2018.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Rutledge. Seconded by Ms. LeBlanc. Any discussion? Show of hands. All 9 in favor, 0 against. And special meeting minutes of June 7th, 2018. Moved by Mr. Neville, seconded by Ms. Riley. Any discussion?
I just have to abstain. I was out of town.
Country.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I will ask you.
The abstainers.
Super Scott, I will ask you that at the end. All in favor? Any against? Any abstain? We have 3 abstentions.
Rich.
Mr. Rainier, Mr. Blank, and Super Scott.
I don't have a name like that. Like terrific.
Well, that's a PTO thing. So. Yeah. 14, we don't need to do tonight.
We don't need to do tonight, no.
Okay. 15, any correspondence? We did get our invitations to graduation, but I'm sorry I stole your thunder.
Wow. Secretary Cruzel? No, I'm
Yeah,
just kidding.
I'm sorry.
No. Yes, we got our invitations to graduation along with our parking pass. So there is an RSVP on your invitation, so let them know that you're going to be there. And that's all we have for tonight.
I didn't know that. See? All right, so do we have a motion to go into executive session? Moved by Mr. Neville, seconded by Ms. Riley. All in favor? We are in executive session, and we will not coming back to public.